Good evening and welcome to the regular council meeting for July 17th, 2019. We're starting at 7:09 after a brief recess. At this time, we have the confirmation of agenda. Are there any emergent items coming from any council members tonight? Seeing none, are there any from administration? Thank you very much. So I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Corbeil.
I move the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much for that motion. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. At this time in the agenda, we are looking at presentations or recognitions, and item 3.1 is a presentation to the STARS group. Tracy Simpson, are you speaking to this? Okay, would you mind? Okay, thank you.
I apologize. I'm not sure who here from STARS is with us this evening. Thank you. I feel very underprepared. So at a previous council meeting, STARS presented about funding for their program for the Strathmore area, and council approved a per capita funding of $1. I say that with uncertainty. I apologize. And so this evening, we're here to present them with the 2019 check for the per capita grant to assist with their program.
Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to call Glenda forward, as well as the rest of the council, to have a formal check presentation. And would you like to say a few words just before we present? We'd love to hear you.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to say happy birthday to Mayor Fuel. And I follow you in 3 more days. So, we're very proud, we're honored to have you join the municipal initiative across Alberta that supports the STARS program to provide on an annual funding basis, to recognize STARS as a part of emergency protective services, because that is who we work with every day. And so joining the municipal initiative in Alberta, currently we have about 90% of rural, and we have more and more up-and-coming urbans like yourselves that are also partnering. That provides annual sustainability for us as we go forward, so that, STARS is 33 years this year in Alberta, serving Albertans. And as we go forward, we need to have that sustainability to preserve and protect STARS, not only for today and tomorrow, but for future generations. So you are a part of that, and we are very, very honored to have you join our municipal initiative. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And on behalf of council and the town of Strathmore, we're very pleased and proud to be able to be a sponsor of this. And I would like to have all council come up with me as we present a check to you and your group for $14,000.
Thank you. And I brought you a brand new calendar. They are just out this month, so.
Do you still do the Band-Aids too?
We have those cells separate, but they're no longer included in the calendar. I did get one.
Oh, we have another one coming.
All right.
No, never, but.
Smile big. 1, 2, 3. We're going to take one more. 1, 2, 3. Looking good. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody that works on this project. It's a lifesaver.
It's a pleasure to work with you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, is that, and in that photo we shared with
Thank you very much, Glenda, for being here. And once again, we're very happy to support STARS, which has made a huge impact on a lot of people's lives in this area. We often hear the helicopter come into town or leave, and it's a very powerful reminder of the work that's done. So thank you very much.
It is a partnership.
Yes, thank you. At this time, we're on to item 4, delegations. I don't think we have any delegations. Confirmation of minutes, 5.1, adoption of the regular council meeting minutes for July 3rd, 2019. Councillor Corbeil.
I move the council adopt the regular council meeting minutes for July 3rd, 2019 as presented.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? The motion is carried. I don't believe we have any tabled items. So we're moving on to item 7, items from administration, Community Access Program, which is on page 10 of your brochure. And Linda, welcome this evening. Linda Bernicki is here.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The top one. So good evening, Your Worship and Council. I'm here tonight to discuss a poverty reduction opportunity for the town Community Access Card. So Community Access Card provides low-income families and individuals access to town programs and services at a reduced rate. It is based on, it would be based on income and family size, and it supports the philosophy that everybody gets to participate, everybody gets to play, and everybody gets to be active. This is a trauma-informed care approach, as individuals and families only have to share their story once of why they would require subsidy to access town services. So why now? Why is the time right now to bring something like this into Strathmore? So the Community Access Card is a poverty reduction strategy that builds upon the pillars of programs and services that we've already been collaborating on, such as the Rural Homelessness Count, the Seniors Tax Rebate Program, and the Poverty Reduction Task Force that the town leads at this time. In addition, the Community Access Card aligns with Council's strategic plans with respect to the inclusive community strategy, Indigenous engagement, community development, quality of services, and the overall mission of the town that states the town of Strathmore provides services that promote the well-being of our community. One of the pillars of the Canada's poverty reduction strategy includes the promotion of full participation, equality, and opportunity for all, therefore reducing isolation. We've researched several municipalities that have a similar program, and one of the things that they're seeing is they're seeing a very positive social return on investment results. But they're also seeing an opportunity for people that wouldn't normally access the programs and services because of costs or accessing them now, and an opportunity to start to see an increase in people accessing town services or municipality services. And so if Council directs administration to develop a policy and procedure for the Community Access Card, we bring that back to a fall meeting. And one of the important notes is that the Community Access Card would not have any direct impact on budget implications, because what we would be able to do is we would be able to offset the costs with current budget allocations for 2020, and then we would also be able to do internal transfers if required to meet the needs of the budget costs. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Linda. And we'll go to Councillor Bauer first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation, Linda. So could you please talk a little bit about the programs and services that the town of Strathmore currently has in place that people with the Community Access Card would be able to access?
For sure. Swimming lessons, drop-in swimming. We have all the different recreation programs that we have that people would be able to access at a reduced cost, like skating, public skating, or shinny or something like that when it's a town-sponsored event. Getting a reduction to use the new rec facility, to use the walking track and other programs and services that are over there. any programs and services that the town may offer that there's a cost to. So, for example, if if our department is doing an education program and we have to charge $25, that person would be eligible based on that card to have a reduced rate for that.
And are you also thinking of including summer camps in that program?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. So definitely. So any of the programs over at the hub, summer camps, the camps that the fire department offers, any of the programming over at the hub, definitely, yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brower. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much, Linda, for your presentation. I just want to say I support this initiative as it will, let's say, more accurately target the people in our community that need help, and it will also allow the town to, let's say, adjust fees without having as much concern or trying to balance the fact that there are people in the community that do require some sort of assistance with paying for some of these programs. So it should have kind of, let's say, improved budget implications in the future for us for that reason. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Linda, sorry.
Sorry, if I could just add to that, we were really surprised to see that when we figured out the percentage of the census of the amount of people in Strathmore that are living on the poverty line or below at 10%, we were really surprised that it was that high. So that just really complements what your comment was.
Thank you for that addition. Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciate this. I think it's a step in removing barriers that a lot of households in Strathmore face. And I do agree, recreation, I do believe, is an essential service. I fully support this. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and not to be overly repetitive, but I also totally support this program. But I do have a couple of questions. So, first of all, in regards to budget, I'm just trying to get my head around this again. You said it would have you said practically no effect on budget. And why is that, Linda?
Because it's not going to have a separate GL line, and we're not giving any money out. So what it's going to do is it may, for the first year, 18 months, reduce a little bit of the revenue that the town is receiving.
Okay.
And there's an opportunity to maybe move some money around in GLs to help offset that.
However, I think it's also important to remember that probably a lot of people taking advantage of this program would not be going to these facilities anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a complete wash. Except there's only a few of the programs that would have an effect on the dollar, like Shinny and Sports Arena. That's not going to have any effect, and it would actually be probably a plus. So I like that. In regards to the qualification for this, so for a youth, I'm going to assume that you're taking you need the parents' gross income for the year in order to qualify.
That's right. So what we would propose with a procedure with it is that we would base it similar on the other subsidies programs that we have, which we base it on the line 150.
Right.
But if there's a youth where there's little or no parent involvement, that we see that they would be able to benefit for this program, then we would have the authority to be able to move on that and make decisions per case.
Real good. And my last question, I think at the beginning of your presentation, you indicated that they would only have to justify being able to be on the program once at the beginning, or did I misunderstand you?
So you would only have to apply once. You would have to apply every year, though, because it would be based on income. And so let's say they're applying for the community access card because they want to take swimming lessons.
Right.
And so we do the intake, and they are approved for that. They're automatically approved to show that card to be registered at a summer camp the town is putting on, per se. So they don't have to go through that application process for every single
Oh, I
service
got
that
you.
the town
But each year,
offers.
they've got to reapply for the card.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sobel. Councillor Corbeil.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corbeil.
I move the council direct administration to develop a policy and procedure for a community access card program.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corbeil. You all heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Linda, for your presentation, and I also want to thank you and your department for looking out for the best interests of the vulnerable parts of our society and having young people of all income levels be able to take part in recreation things in the town is got to be nothing but good for our town. So thank you.
Thanks.
And that brings us to item 7.2, the IREF Council Referral Policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know this is the item everyone's excited for tonight, but I will try to make it quick. So with the evolution of the Calgary Metropolitan Regional District and the IREF, the Interim Land Use Group, one of the requirements that is coming out is that large-scale land use applications be forwarded to the CMRB, the TAG group, for review prior to approval. So right now, that's anything, essentially any large-scale plans or any amendments to plans that would add 50 units or more, roughly. Don't want to belabor all the details. One of the requests from council is that we develop a policy in terms of which of these are coming to council for review and which would just be sort of, that Strathmore wouldn't comment on. So talking to IREF, talking to some individuals who've worked in Edmonton and other regional areas, staff have put together a policy that would say that any IREF referrals, so any referrals for sort of land use changes that, as I said, large-scale MDPs, area redevelopment plans, or area structure plans, within 40 kilometers of Strathmore, so of the city limits or town limits of Strathmore, would be brought to council. So what development services would do is they would receive this, review it, do a data for council, recommend support or non-support, bring it to council for a decision as to whether Strathmore voices a formal objection or not. Anything outside of that 40 kilometers would be made available to council, but staff wouldn't present a report and there wouldn't be sort of a formal council item. 40 kilometers was selected because that seems to be a distance that covers our neighbor, Chestermere, but doesn't extend too deep into Calgary because it's felt the sheer volume of the applications coming out of Calgary, especially with that 50 unit threshold, could swamp a lot of agendas, especially if the economy changes, things pick up. But it does cover those areas of Wheatland County that are within the CMRB, as well as Chestermere. So that seemed a reasonable balance between making sure that council has a voice in regional planning matters without sort of making every council meeting feel like we're reviewing Calgary's growth. So staff recommendation here is that council adopt the policy and that gives staff direction moving forward. It is a pretty quick policy, I think, so if it's found that it's not working, if it's found that it's being onerous, the amount of applications coming to council, or if council's feeling disconnected, it can be amended fairly easy. But this is, as I say, is a first cut of this based on what we're talking with the CMRB on that 40 kilometers seems a reasonable distance. I won't belabor it, so, Your Worship, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much for your report, Ryan. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And I've gone through all this, and I am very satisfied with the recommendation for the policy. I might have leaned towards accepting Calgary in the 40 kilometer and just leave them as a notification item. I wouldn't have had a problem with that, but I'm good with running through it. And as you said, I have really no desire to be reviewing a bunch of applications from Calgary, to be quite honest with you. But we can leave it as it is. If it does get onerous, maybe we can make a change, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sobel. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you. I'm ready with a motion, if nobody else has anything. And I will move that council approve the policy framework proposed by administration as to when CMRB-approved IREF applications are presented at council.
Thank you very much for that motion, Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you. And just before we proceed, Jen, if I could ask you a question. I think we were remiss in adding an item to the agenda.
Your
Councillor
Worship,
Corbeil was very sharp and picked
thank
that
you, Your
up.
Worship. We can do that during the in-camera portion of the meeting towards the end, under section 14. So we can just make it during.
Okay, thank you
at
very
that time.
much. And thank you, Councillor Corbeil, for catching that. 7.3, Waste Management Update.
That will be me as well.
Welcome back, Ryan. How have you been?
Oh, a long time away. Oh, perfect. All right, perfect. So first, as promised from Councillor Montgomery's administrative updates, I wanted to pass this around. That includes the full cost. Apologize for council for not being with the report. I didn't like the way it was originally put together, so that's just simply that Councillor Montgomery's admin inquiry. I have it. Thank you, Your Worship. So, again, we'll make this quick. Just one of the commitments we made with waste management going forward was that we would update council with sort of the status of waste collection services in Strathmore biannually. So, again, won't belabor it. Some of the key things I think everybody has noticed is since the last discussions in December of this year, I guess it's safe to say odor complaints have fallen off the map. Really down from vast numbers, yeah, touch wood, to about 6%. So some of those would be complaints coming into January. However, it is safe to say, I think, based on personal experience and numbers of complaints, that the odor issue has been contained. Most of the communications we're getting regarding waste management are regarding new, repair, or replaced carts. And that's not a surprise because this was the first sort of biannual chunk that we were rolling out the larger green carts. So as much as that 151 over 6 months seems high, a lot of that will be just in the form of delivering new carts. Replacement, moving from the small green cart to the large green cart. That's been a popular program. We have been working a lot closer with Waste Management, though, to track all of the complaints that are coming into them that would bypass Strathmore, to make sure that those are getting picked up and collected, and that staff and, if need be, council are aware of emerging issues with waste management. Still working on a number of initiatives with waste management. They have become a good positive partner as we've moved forward. Looking still at additional compost land capacity. Waste Management is interested in seeing if there are opportunities to add land to their compost processing. They felt all along that part of the issue they ran into that was causing a lot of the smells was too much material on too small an area. Staff are working with them on this. This is one that we see as positive for a number of reasons, not the least of which it allows us to reopen and rewrite that lease with sort of some stronger controls and oversight. Also working with them on the free compost for residents item. So this is one I think that there was two parties looking at the same document, came away with completely different opinions on what it meant. So Waste Management has been providing compost, however, they have been charging a nominal fee, about $3 a load. This, I think, came as a surprise to council, certainly because it was the expectation, I think, that it was free. So working with Waste Management now to deliver the service and then even do a small contribution to a local charity. So we hope to announce the results of that program I was going to say in August, but there won't be a meeting in August, but making sure that for next spring's planting season that this is dealt with and well in hand. As well as, trying to get a better handle on how people are requesting donations of waste management, specifically with porta potties and how waste management donates those. So just making sure we're tracking that properly. They are good contributors to town that way. Finally, attached the cost summary for costs over the past, since 2007. So costs have grown in waste collection slightly, or ahead of inflation. Inflation has been about 2.4, annual cost increases have been about 7.1%, so 4.7% over inflation. To be fair on those, provincial regulations have increased since then, and some of those costs are absolutely attributable to more challenging requirements at landfills. And specifically, going from the black bin program, from the old can compost or can program to the black bin program, looks like it's about a 9.8% increase per dwelling, with inflation that year being 1.6. So adjusted for inflation, it would have a cost impact of about 8%. Some of that will be attributable, however, to moving to the new contract as well. So it's tough to pin down how much of that is associated with going to the black and green, how much of that was simply the new contract. Again, won't belabor anything other than to say that right now our relationships with Waste Management are good. We're getting good reports from them, communicating well, and hoping that this is a really good, positive contractual relationship going forward. So that concludes our remarks. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much for that report, Ryan. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you very much for providing this information, Ryan. One question I have is, so out of the, I think it was 500 larger compost carts, do you know how many of those have been sent out?
Your Worship, I'd have to get back to you. I know most of them are still in the yard,
Oh, okay.
but that's just kind of my eyeball. We will get back to council with the exact number.
Okay. All right, well, just thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you. So a couple of questions. One is, so there was a fairly substantial reduction in cost for the compost pickup, because we're not having to transport that into the city or anywhere else. Is that reflected in these numbers, or are they counter affected because of extra costs?
Your Worship, these are sort of the full numbers, so that reduction would be offset by other cost increases. But we're not transporting anything out now. It is all going to the heaps in town.
But but our transfer to black and green bin was done at minimal cost to our residents.
Your Worship, I think it's fair to say that, the costs weren't excessive. I suppose that's in the eye of the beholder. It would be about 8%, but adding that second bin and that extra capacity would be sort of the counterbalance to that.
Okay, and going back to that compost pickup, and far be it for me to tell Waste Management what to do with that program, but I do know one thing, that message has not gotten out to our public. I imagine some people know about it, but a great many people do not know about that program. And in the city, for instance, this program is specific to, I think it's 1 or 2 weekends. It might even be one in the spring, early, and I can only imagine that doing this all year round might be a little bit of a pain for the company. But I certainly wouldn't have, if it was well advertised. I would really support and maybe even recommend that this be done in a specific time so that they don't have to play around with this all year round.
Your Worship, one of the things we've talked to Waste Management about, and they're receptive about, is that's it prior to sort of next year's planting season. So in that quarterly, we'll call it spring quarterly utility insert, would be to put that advertising, and then as well as advertising on other town social media to make sure that it gets out there. It's a great program. My garden's still terrible, but I do use compost in it. And yeah, it's a great opportunity as well to connect the community to some of the benefits of composting. And yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ryan, for this 6-month waste management update. Really appreciate it. I did notice on page 31 that it does say that Waste Management has donated nearly $30,000 of cash or services to facilitate various town initiatives. It says see details provided, but it's not attached. So I was wondering if you could speak to some of the things that Waste Management is doing currently in our community.
Your Worship, absolutely. And first up, let me apologize for not having the attachment. I uploaded this to eScribe, so it is my fault, and apologize for that. I can't blame any staff for that. So a lot of what Waste Management contributes is in the form of donating portable washroom facilities. So, not sure what the
Porta
porta potties. Thank you. I was trying to figure out what the council appropriate term for that is. To town and regional events. We've all seen those nice green ones. As well, they donate about $5,000 worth of trees a year. And then they also, the $30,000 is just various town initiatives. They are also good partners in terms of supporting other local nonprofit and other events. As I say, we've seen the porta potties out at other community events not put on by the town. And so one of the things we wanted to do was to facilitate for user groups who might not know how to ask Waste Management, who won't have the contacts there, to help them, that's one of the initiatives, to help them get a better idea of how to ask Waste Management for this kind of donation.
Now, there is a little bit of an issue with calling Waste Management. Sometimes you're rerouted through a customer service line, and then I've received information from different people in the community that they're not easy to talk to with their 1-800 number and whatnot. Is there a way for people to do that in a more friendly manner?
Your Worship, we will follow up with Waste Management on that. One of the things we've been pushing on them is to make sure that that it is easy to communicate with them. So I will follow up with you for some of the details and time, especially when people have called and got rerouted, because this is one we'll follow up on right away.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing is, I would like to recommend that we send a letter to Waste Management regarding their the way that they really handled themselves with council by bringing Brad up from Houston, and the way that Chris and his crew dealt with the smell issue and really resolved that with us. And I thought it was a very collaborative, inclusive approach, and they were very good at receiving our feedback, and I'd like to commend them on what they have done.
Thank you, Worship. Certainly we could put something together. I think showing gratitude is always part of a healthy partnership, and yeah, as I say, to their credit, smell complaints have declined a lot. And
Would you like me to make a motion, Ryan? Or does one need to?
I don't know that we need a motion for that, no. I
Thank
think
you.
we can pass that
And then
on.
the last thing is could I please ask that communications through the chair and through our CAO, would we be able to put another note to residents that the 120-liter green bins are available if they wish to upgrade?
240, I think.
Is it 240?
240, yeah.
240 from 80? Okay. Thank you very much. That's everything.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer, and thank you for your report, Ryan, very much.
Thank you, Worship.
I'm not done.
Councillor Corbeil, I'm sorry, I did not even see your red light.
Thank you, Worship.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Anyway, I had one kind of comment to go with Councillor Sobel. As a counterbalance to supplying both the green and the black card when we went to that direction, do we not save a little bit with our tonnage with taking garbage out of Strathmore, though, like from the black bins?
Your Worship, we can provide more detail at the next report, but that is fair to say we are tipping less. So that part of the budget has remained constant, and it's the collection costs that have increased.
Right, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corbeil, and thank you again, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Item 7.4, coat of arms and flag. Mr. Thackeray, is this you?
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you is a proposed report asking Rideau Hall to do a formal grant to the town of Strathmore. We have a little working group made up of Trent and Erica. And we're also hoping to include a knowledge keeper from Siksika in this process. It's another way we can reach out to Siksika to bring our communities together and to create some meaningful symbols between our two communities. As you may know, Siksika and their flag behind us, their badge, was granted by the Heraldic Authority some years ago, which forms part of their flag. So we are hoping to be able to find some creative ways to do that. We're also hoping this will create an official document and an official symbol, which will be registered in Ottawa and allow us to have something that will be lasting between our communities as well as represent our town. Otherwise, if you had any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Thank you for that, Mr. Thackeray. Councillor Sobel. I think yours has to come off, yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have a question, I guess, is in regards to the cost on this, there's an attachment, of course, that has a number of costs involved, and I'm not exactly sure what we're dealing with, but is it safe to assume that all the preliminary design costs are included as well as the final art costs included, and either option 1 or 2 of the calligraphy portion? Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, the costs are provided. We are in the process of finding some alternative means to fund this and not to use our own sources or to use grant money. And if it's okay, I'd rather not disclose right now what we're thinking, but I could provide information later. Thank you.
Councillor Sobel, is that good for you? Councillor Sobel.
Yes, thank you. So I'm just trying to get my head as to what we're going to do with this, and I'm having problems with that. I understand that it's a symbol, but I don't know where we're going with this.
So,
James.
through the chair, to answer Councillor Sobel, some time ago, even in the last council, we spoke of finding a way to take some of the symbols that we have and create official symbols, because we can go to a advertising company, we can have marketing and promotional material made, but it's not protected. And so by doing this, we end up protecting any official symbols or crests of the town through the registry in Rideau Hall. And the other part of this is we are going to intend on using these the symbolism in our long service awards program. So it becomes the portions of that would actually be something that would be officially registered in Ottawa, and it would be something that's just that somebody could use or use for different purposes. For example, the Canadian flag that sits behind you there is registered in Ottawa in the National Registry. So it's not something that can be just used by anybody for necessarily any purpose, because there is actual policy around the use of the national flag or provincial flags. So it just allows us to do that on our own. It doesn't change the fact that we want to use marketing materials or do something else, but it's something we wanted to do internally, and we wanted to try and find a way to work with Siksika and do something that they did, which is a lasting symbol of their official of their nation. Simply that. Nothing too complicated. Thank you.
Thank you. And with all due respect, I'm as confused as ever. And it's not you, James. I'm sure it's me that just is not catching this. Because is this meant to replace our logo?
No, it's not meant to replace any marketing. Through the chair, it's not meant to replace any marketing or any kind of branding that we do. It's a lot of cities and towns, even the provinces, they have marketing material, branding material, but they also have official symbols that they use on official documentation and in an official role. And they use them sparingly for certain circumstances. So we're just looking at something that would be a lasting legacy for the town, to create an official flag that would not be just changed on the whim of a political expediency.
Can you just give me an example, James, what you would use? No, I appreciate that. I know what a coat of arms is.
Yep, and that's what we're.
Where we want to use it.
So the coat of arms.
On paper, like,
Official correspondence, official documentation, official certificates, official long service awards, creating a flag that would be an official flag of Strathmore that would be granted. And there's hundreds of municipalities across the country have done this, and they've used it quite well. Thank you.
Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Worship. And Councillor Slowbill, no, you're not the only one confused. I'm kind of confused as to why we wouldn't just use one. If we want to do it this way, then I think it should replace our flag and only be, that should be the representation of Strathmore. I'm not sure why we would kind of have two. Is that where?
It's a good question. We're not proposing that we have 2 flags or 3 flags. We're not, I guess to the mayor's point, we have a brand and an image, and that's used for a different purpose, but we don't want to mix the two. And what seems to have happened is some cities have used their branding and imaging to use it for marketing purposes, and there's other official documents that really aren't suited for that. So the idea is to create an official flag for Strathmore, and to do it, have it officially sanctioned by Rito Hall. So the proposal would be to change this flag. Doesn't mean we wouldn't use the train or the logo or any of that stuff. That stuff doesn't change. But to use it as the official flag of Strathmore, we would propose that we would create an official flag not similar to what Siksik had proposed, but the process they used. Thank you.
So if I could just interject, would this be a more formal one than the informal, more informal logo flag? Okay. One of the things I do like about the idea of the coat of arms is that we could permanently cement the collaboration and the bringing together of Siksika Nation and the town of Strathmore and possibly Wheatland. Those symbols that are common to all 3 of our regional partners would be locked into our coat of arms then, and it would demonstrate, especially to Siksika Nation, that we're definitely serious of bringing our communities together. So that part I do like. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually was quite excited about this little bit on our agenda package this week. Being part of the Western District Historical Society and Communities in Bloom, we're always looking for opportunities to look to our past and how we have arrived here currently. And one of the recommendations from the Communities in Bloom judges last year was that we look a little bit more towards our rich heritage, and we highlight that within our community. I think that branding is separate to this purpose of developing a flag. Branding is something that speaks to a Strathmore now, and a flag would be recognizing the historical significance of who we are as a people, who were the initial immigrants that are here, the farming past, paying homage to our ancestors and the things that really built this town into the rich place that it is now, and including things like WID and what has made this community, the fact that even we've moved, could be as part of our coat of arms. So I can see a lot of possibilities with this. I really do think that this council has had conversations about community service recognition programs, such as a key to this town, and I think this would be a very honorable way for us to continue using the coat of arms on the flag, and then perhaps maybe in a key or other community recognition programs, and have that follow through with us, and that it wouldn't change with governments. It wouldn't change with a council. It would be something that is cemented with Rideau Hall, and it would be an honor to be part of this process. I look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. So is there any further discussion? I guess we'd be you're looking for a motion concerning this kind of a process. Councillor Bauer?
I'd be prepared to make that motion, Your Worship. I move that council have the Chief Herald grant the town of Strathmore heraldic emblems under the authority exercised by the Governor-General of Canada.
Thank you. You've got the motion on the floor and discussion. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm still not real clear on where this is going, but one thing I am clear on is that the cost of this thing is over $10,000. And I'm not prepared to support that project. My proposal is going to be that we table this matter until administration is able to provide us some financial recommendations in regards to how we're going to pay for this.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Mr. Thackeray?
Sorry, through the chair. If I may, could I refer this part of the item in camera because of third-party confidentiality? And I think it'll answer your question. Thank you.
So would that require us to remove the motion at this time or delay it until a later date? If we're going to discuss it in camera further? Jennifer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, you can move in camera while there's still motion on the floor.
Okay, Councillor Bauer.
I move to go on camera.
Thank you. We have a motion to go in camera. All in favor? And we're going in camera at 7:54. So you're willing to accept a friendly amendment then, Councillor Bauer? Deputy Mayor Montgomery, are you prepared? Were you, or Councillor Sobel? Did you want to have an amendment to the motion?
Sorry.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, Your Worship, as per the CAO's comments. I wonder if Ms. Swatsky got that. Can you reread?
Your Worship, I do have it. However, a proper procedure would have council do a separate motion for an amendment. So the amendment would be that funding be withdrawn from the Legislative Services operating budget in the amount of $435. Could be the motion to amend the main.
So you need a motion to amend the original motion?
That would
Okay.
be the motion, that would be the motion I would make, with the addition of, with a full budget to come before council.
So we have a motion on the floor to amend the original motion of Councillor Bauer. All in favor? And then now we're looking at the new motion, the new amended motion. Jen, is that correct? So do you need someone to make that amended motion in full now?
Your Worship, yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Is someone prepared to make that motion with the full amendment that has been discussed? Councillor Bauer.
Ms. Sawatsky, do you mind reading that portion that was just amended, and then I'll add it on to the original motion?
Thank you, Worship. The amendment would read that, and that council fund, and that funding for the project would be drawn from the Legislative Services operating budget in the amount of $435, with the remaining funds to be budgeted for 2020.
All right, I'll try and do my best. I think I have most of it. I move that council have the chief herald grant the town of Strathmore heraldic emblems under the authority exercised by the Governor-General of Canada, and that funds for the project be drawn in the amount of $435 be drawn from Legislative Services, with the remaining funds to be presented from to be presented to council in 2020.
Thank you for
In the
that
2020
motion.
budget.
Have you got that all, Jen? So we now have a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that motion is carried. And that brings us to 7.5, the petition, or a petition concerning Center Street speed limits, or speed limit. It's on page 38. And Ryan, are you speaking to this one?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know that you missed me talking. Yes. We'll make this very, very quick. Staff have received a petition from residents, we'll say along the ranch, asking to reduce the speed limit on the in the area from 50 to 40. This is actually an initiative that the Traffic Safety Committee is grappling with right now. Where in town we should expand that pilot project of 40-kilometer zones. So it's recommended, and it's supported by the petitioners, that this be referred to the Traffic Safety Committee for more work on it prior to making a recommendation to council.
Thank you. It looks like both the Traffic Advisory Group and the residents who signed the petition have been both working towards the same end, so that's very good news to hear. Do we need, Councillor Corbeil, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. That was actually going to be my question, is to see if they had even reviewed it, that committee, and I'm glad to hear that they are. I'm going to move that council receive this report for information.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Which brings us to item 8, committee reports. 8.1, reports from councillors from committees on which they sit. Do we have any reports tonight? Seeing none. Council committee minutes. Council committee reports? Is it minutes? Okay. Anyone for those? Anything from admin as far as that? Councillor Corbeil?
We just have to move the council accepts the council committee minutes for information.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Thank you. And we're on to item 9, items directly related to council. I don't think we have any. Item 10, bylaws. 10.1, Edgefield Land Use Amendment, page 55 of your exciting program. Welcome back, Ryan.
I feel like I've been gone a long time. Okay, you'd think the 95th time you showed me I would remember, but 5 more times until we hit the 100 mark. Thank you, Your Worship. Again, we'll make this very brief. This is, a land use change request. In this case, despite what the report says, this will be for first reading for Edgefield Phase 2 land use change. So the developer at Edgefield Phase 2, just based on the market and the configuration he sees, wanting sort of that development, has requested that council give reading to a bylaw that would essentially shift the duplex portions of the new phase onto the single families and a number of the single families onto the duplex phase. So there's no real net change in density, there's no real net change in servicing. This is just the configuration that the developer feels will be most marketable. It is absolutely in keeping with the municipal development plan. It's keeping with the area structure plan in that overall densities are the same. Because we're sort of moving uses across streets, no real traffic impact is expected. And this is really keeping in sort of the vision of that neighborhood. Staff are recommending that council give this first reading. Because of a bit of sequencing, this has actually been given advertising and gone to the public as well, and there's only been 1 inquiry, no correspondence. So staff are recommending that we give this first reading to move ahead with the public hearing and second and third readings into, September.
Thank you, Ryan. I just want to clarify, there is a public hearing scheduled for this?
The intent was to have the public hearing tonight. However, there was no public hearing held tonight, so we'll have to move that to September. To make up the speed for the developer, however, we will process a number of files that have been waiting for this now, so there will be no net speed change to the
Okay, thank you. I
application
guess my
process.
confusion was in our efficiencies report, it talked about 3 readings in a single evening. So we're going to be moving in that direction from here on in?
Yeah, there was that was the intent with this one. That's why the report reads the way it was. There was a bit of a call it miscommunication in the agenda
Okay,
preparation.
thank you. So is council all aware then that this is first reading to get it on the table basically and a public hearing is to follow and it'll come back to us? Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Councillor Corbeil.
Move the council give first reading to bylaw number 19-13.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corbeil. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Ryan. Will you be back again?
We're doing them all, I think, right?
I thought you were still saying this one, yes.
Okay.
You need a public hearing date though.
That's-
Your Worship, we would schedule the public hearing for, I want to say September 4th, and Ms. Swatsky will frown at me if I'm wrong.
So do you need that in the motion then as well?
Yes.
Let's say yes, Your Worship.
Councillor Corbeil, would you be prepared to make a new motion?
Sure.
Just another motion, thank you.
Yeah, and that the public hearing to follow would be September 4th, 2019.
Thank you very much. You have a motion for first reading now that's more fully done. Folsom Prison Blue. All right, all in favor? I am rattled a bit now, thank you. All right, so that brings us to item 11, urgent business. I don't believe we have any tonight. Questions 12, questions between councillors and or council statements. Number 13, administrative inquiries. Jen, does administration have some? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have one from Councillor Montgomery. It's in regard to a town tree nursery. It says, can administration please look into the idea of using a portion of the pivot field land for a town tree nursery to reduce the amount spent on purchasing more mature trees from private vendors?
Thank you for that, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Montgomery. So seeing that all the public portion has been dealt with, we need a motion to go in camera to complete the last two items. Jennifer?
Your Worship, perhaps at this time, council would like to make the motion in regard to Solarcraft.
Perfect, thank you. I had raised that earlier and then neglected it. So council, you know where that is. That's Deputy Mayor Montgomery, thank you.
I will move that council authorize the signing of an amendment to the Solarcraft lease to reflect the actual area of land being leased by the proponent.
Thank you. You've all heard that motion. Is there any discussion on Deputy Mayor Montgomery's motion? Councillor Sobel?
I just wonder if it's appropriate to have a few words of explanation on this, because there has been nothing on that in public.
Sure, thank you, and that's always a good idea. This was discussed in camera as it dealt with a land issue and a legal issue, so we can reflect on that now, and Ryan will just speak to that so the public is more aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So by way of brief detail, as part of the detailed design process with Solarcraft, which is the company leasing portions of the lands owned by the town southeast of the highway, the original intent had been that they would lease 320 acres of land. Thanks to the good work and working with some of the partners, especially with the Western Irrigation District, they've been able to make their facility more land efficient without sacrificing any of the kilowatt hours. I'm going to call it wattage, but that doesn't sound right. So the facility will still be the same capacity as originally planned, 40 watts direct current, 47 watts alternating current. However, there will be a reduction in the overall amount of land leased. So this resolution would give authorization to Mayor Fuel to amend the lease with Solarcraft to reflect the actual amount of land being leased. Thank you, Your Worship. That concludes my remarks. If there are any questions.
Thank you very much for that clarification for the people here as well as the people who are locked onto their screens at home. You've got a motion on the floor. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And now I'm looking for a motion, I hope, to go in camera. Councillor Corbeil.
I move to go in camera.
Thank you. We have a motion to go in camera. All in favor? And we're going in camera at 8:27 to complete the final two items. Thank you.